Hey guys, Ryan here with Lawrence Training Academy, brought to you by Night and Day Marine. I wanted to make this little quick video here to show you how to use the GPS chart plotter screen on your Hook2x series display. Now, as I'm sure you guys have noticed or have found out, that these units do not do mapping even though they do have GPS. Now what you get is this solid kind of blank white screen. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is that there are actually a lot of different features that you can go through to allow you to utilize this and actually still navigate with this type of screen even without having the map. And so I'd like to show you how to do that and go through the various options that this unit has available for you to use. And so first off, before we get started here, I want to point out a few things. If you didn't already know, your position, that right there, the little arrow right there in the middle of the screen, that's you. That's where you are located at on this Earth. Now, you also have down here in the bottom right-hand corner, and it's going to give you a little number with a little bar underneath it. What that is, that's your zoom range. So if you were to press your plus and minus buttons like this, you can zoom in and out. And as you can see, this number changes right there as it goes up to 15 miles, 10, 5, 2. Now, the bar underneath is also important because the length of that bar is the distance that it's showing you in that value. So if I was to measure something with just that little length of bar, I would know that that distance is exactly 5 miles from where I'm at. Now, in most cases, when you're using the unit, you're probably going to want to be zoomed in, significantly closer on it. But for right now, I'm going to kind of zoom out to about 1 mile. Now, you also have your little north indicator arrow right up here. Now, this just shows that has a little N on it for north, and it shows you the direction that north is. So kind of help you keep yourself oriented, as far as where you're at and where you're headed towards. So, all right, so now that we've pointed that out, let's go ahead and bring up our options. Now, the first thing we can do is we can press our arrow buttons, which will bring up our crosshairs. Now, this has a few important functions. What this can do is it can allow us to kind of move around and select different objects on the screen. Like I can move down here and I can highlight my waypoint that I've set, or I can just set it to just kind of any kind of random area. And let's say I want to go to that point right there. I can actually bring up my menu and set a navigation point to go to my cursor on that location. Now you're also going to notice that when you bring up the crosshairs, you get this little box down here in the bottom left-hand corner. Now what that shows you is that gives you your actual coordinates. It gives you your distance from that spot to your actual position. So like it showed me 1.68 miles is the distance between right here and here. And then this number right here is your bearing. So it would say that you need to go that particular bearing to get to that point from your current position. And so now if I press my enter button right here, it brings up my menu on the right. Now you're going to get an extra option on here if you have your crosshairs pulled up to show go to cursor. So like say I want to go to this spot right here. What I can do is I can go to cursor, I can press enter, and then it just draws a line from me to that spot to show me that I can travel along that particular set path to get to that particular destination. And so that's all that really is. Now, once that is drawn on the screen, to exit back out, I can select it. I can go down to navigation, which now shows up on my menu. I can press enter, and then I can hit cancel right there, press enter, and it removes it off my screen. Now, if I want to get rid of those crosshairs, and one more thing I want to point out is that when you do press your arrow buttons to bring up these crosshairs, the unit will no longer track you or follow you around. Now, it'll still remain locked onto GPS, but what will happen is if you're driving along, your little arrow right there will just kind of travel up and just drive right off the screen. It won't stay locked right there in the center. So if you bring those up and you want to be able to go right back and lock it in, you can simply press your X button and that removes it off the screen and locks you back into your position. Very simple. Now, let's go ahead and bring our menu options back up. Now you can see that those options for navigation and the cursor are no longer there. Now the first option is going to be new waypoint. Now what that's going to do is it's going to set a waypoint on your exact current position. So if I press enter, it brings up my waypoint option here. Now from this screen, I can go up and I can select this box here at the top where it has the name of the waypoint, and I can press enter, and now I can go through and I can adjust the name of it. I can use my up and down arrow buttons to adjust the character, and I can use my right and left buttons to switch between the different values on it. And then when you're done, you've set it to what you want, you can press enter and it saves it or locks it in. And then you can also go in here, and so say for example, somebody gave you a list of waypoints that are written down on a piece of paper. What you can do is you can create a new waypoint, and then we can select this box right here and press enter. And then we can go through and we can do the same thing like we did before, and we can use our up and down buttons to switch our numbers on there so that we can set it to the exact waypoints that we've got, written down on our paper. So that way you can just kind of manually in waypoints into the unit. Now, these units, as you notice here, they use the coordinate system degrees minutes. So if the way you have your coordinates written down is different than the way it shows up on here, that means that you're going to have to probably enter them into like a computer or something else to get this particular format, so that way you can enter them in correctly. Even though they may have the same number of digits, doesn't mean that it's going to appear the same way as if let's say you had just degrees or degrees, minutes, seconds. And so again, make sure that you have the correct coordinate system, already set up, on your piece of paper, so that way you do enter them in correctly. Now let's go ahead. If I can just press enter and I can set it. Now I can arrow over here to this box and press enter. And what that does is it allows me to switch what my waypoint icon is going to look like on my chart. So I can set it to like a boat ramp, anchor, fish, 16 different options there. I'm just going to leave it on the circle for the time being. Now I can press enter. And now when I'm done, I can just hit save. And since I saved it on my exact location, you'll see that the little circle popped up right underneath my little cursor position arrow. So that means that it's saved on my exact spot. Now if I had entered in different coordinate numbers, it would put that waypoint in whatever position it's at. Now it would be really hard to kind of navigate to it, since this doesn't actually have a map on here on this unit. And so that feature probably really wouldn't come into play. So I highly doubt you'll be manually entering in waypoints on this type of display, but in case you wanted to, that's how you can do it. Now let's go ahead and bring our menu back up. Now the next option is going to be a new route. Now this is if you want to set like different legs that you want to travel to. So here, I'll go ahead and show you. So let's say I hit new route there. Now you get your little crosshairs pulled up on the screen, and what you do is, let's say I want to travel to this position first. I can press enter and it puts a little green circle on it. Now I can move my arrows over, set it to another spot, press enter, and as I keep doing it, it's going to do a little connect the dot type thing here on my screen. Now that's creating a route, and so what you can do is you can set this route, and so that way you can just kind of travel from spot to spot to spot, and it's going to give you a little directional arrow, little line showing you what direction you need to travel. Now again, since you don't really have a map on this unit, you're probably not going to use this feature too often, but in case you wanted to, that again is how you can set it. Now when you're done, you're just going to hit your X, and it's going to ask you if you want to save it or discard it. So if you want to save it here, I can just press enter on save, and it now has saved that route right there on my chart. Now if I press my enter button again, let's go back. Now you can now see that it shows route, RTO2. Now if I wanted to change the name, I can go into my waypoints, routes, and trails here and adjust that, which I'll show you here in a second. Or I can select it right here, and I can go through and I can either edit the waypoint to kind of move it around on the screen to different spots. I can delete the whole thing, or I can set it to start from different positions. So let's say if I want to start from right there, I can actually set it to start from R009. Or if I want to start at the beginning, I can set it at the RTO2. Now you'll notice that if I exit back out and I bring up my crosshairs here and I set it over different points on the screen, at the very top right there, it gives you what the name of that little leg is. So like this one was R008. This one right here is R007. So again, if I select it, I go down there, it now gives me the option to start from that point, or again, I can start from the beginning. Or like I said, if I want to edit that waypoint right there, I can select it, I can then hit move, and I can move it somewhere else on the screen. So like set it there, and now you can see how it made that adjustment right there for me. Now I can hit X, and it saves it, and now it appears right there on the screen for me, ready to use. All right, so now the next option is going to be our WRT. Now that stands for Waypoints, Routes, and Trails. So if we select that, that's going to take us into our Waypoints, Routes, and Trails screen. Now I went ahead and I went over all of this on my previous video for the internal sonar settings. So if you really want to know how to use all those options more in depth, I encourage you to go and watch that video because I do cover it in great detail. But for now, if I select it, you'll see that it brings me into my Waypoints, Routes, and Trails screen to where I can then see my list of my waypoints. I have my list of routes, and I have my list of trails. And you can go through and you can adjust and edit these. You can change the names, you can delete them, different things like that, which again, I cover all that on the internal settings video. So if you want to, see more about that, watch that video as well. So we're going to exit back out now. Now, the last option here is going to be our more options. Now, as I mentioned before, as you notice that you have this little arrow, how it's kind of pointing to the right. Anytime you get a menu option that looks like that, kind of points, it means that there are more submenus behind that particular option. So as you'll notice, when I press enter, I now get these other options that pop up. So now my first one here is orientation. Now, in most cases, course up is how you're going to want to use the unit, because what that does is it sets your cursor and it always points it straight upwards, so that as you turn right and left, the screen is going to kind of rotate around you. So that way, whatever you're looking straight at in real life is what's always going to be straight up on your screen. Now you can switch it right here by going into north up and selecting that. And you're going to notice your little north indicator arrow right here is pointed straight up. But my little cursor arrow on the screen is now pointed in different directions. And so as you navigate around, your screen is going to stay stationary, but you're going to kind of move around in different directions on the screen. Again, I kind of find that a little bit more difficult to navigate in that mode, so I prefer course up, but some guys do like the north up feature. So if you want to set it to north up, that is how you can set it right there. Now I'm going to set mine back to course up for the time being. And then I hit X to go back. Now the next one is going to be look ahead. Now look ahead really only works in the course up feature. You can do it with north up, but it makes it a little bit difficult. So for right now, I'm going to just leave mine on course up to show you here. Now when I select it, you're going to notice a little orange corner that pops up there. It's the same as whenever you're like in your system controls and you get a little orange bar over the top of it. It means that that option is activated. It's selected. And so now when I did that, you're going to notice that your little arrow, it drops really far down on the screen. And so it just means that you're able to see more in front of you, as opposed to it just being right in the center and getting an equal view in all directions. Some people just want to be able to see what's further ahead of them, ahead of time. And so they can turn on that look ahead, move their cursor back and see, further ahead of themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and turn mine off for now. And now the last option here is live soundings. Now this is actually a really cool feature, and it's the closest thing to mapping that you're going to get on this unit. Now what's going to happen is when we select live sounding, what it's going to do is it's as we leave our trail, so as we navigate around, it's going to use our sonar and it's going to record the depth, and it's going to give us little numbers on top of our trail to show us what the depths of the water are over any area that we've already passed over. So let me show you this real quick. Let's exit back out. Now let's turn on our simulator here. Let's go into settings. We're going to turn on our simulator. Now we're going to switch it back to our screen. All right, so now you can see our little squiggly trail right there. And if you look real closely, you can see how there's an 8 right there. And if I remove our waypoint, so if I put my crosshairs on it, enter, I can go down to, let's see here. That's the SEM1 waypoint. Now I'm going to delete all this here. So if I actually want to remove that waypoint right there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up, I'm going to go to my waypoints, routes, and trails. I'm going to delete just all my waypoints for the time being because I don't need any of them. And so now, as I move my cursors, now you can see the little 4 right there. So that's indicating that on that little area that I passed over, it's 4 foot in depth. This little area is 8 feet. So it's a nice little feature they add on there. If you're going to use the chart screen on here, I highly recommend turning that on. So at least just at a quick glance how deep the water was, in any area that you passed over. It's just a nice little feature they add in. since you don't actually have mapping or cartography features available on this particular unit. Now, one more thing I feel like I should point out on here, because I've heard from multiple people that on the side of this unit, you can see that there's like a little indentation just on the far right-hand side of the unit over here. Now, some people have said that if you kind of cut that out, there's a hidden SD card slot behind that. I just want to go on the record that is 100% not true. If you cut that out, you're going to void the warranty on your unit. And chances are you're going to get moisture inside and you're going to ruin it. So do not listen to anybody who says that. Do not cut that piece out. Very important that you don't do that. So I just wanted to mention that. But so that's really about it as far as the chart GPS screen goes on the Hook X series units. And so stay tuned. Got lots of other videos. And as always, stay safe out there, guys.